I was sent the script for the Leather Boys, Raymond Strauss's production company, and they asked me if I would like to play the role, and I thought it was I liked it a lot. It was really interesting, and that's really how it came around. It was just sent to me, and they asked me if I would do it. I was just 20.
Hey! Hold on, what about me?
The interesting thing about the script was Gillian Freeman wrote the book, and when we came to do it, we found, which I'm not always happy with, that we had to do a lot of improvising, because when we were mixing with everyone, the dialogue was not quite what we were hearing, so we did a lot of improvisation.
Look at the time. You said you was coming home straight after work.
I'm crying out loud, how did I know he was going to die? Now come here!
It was sort of a bit too hot, the script, and there was things that, caught me. It didn't seem right. It wasn't appropriate, falling up the tongue. And so we would sit around with Sidney and Dudley and Colin and I, and we just sort of go through it. And then, of course, when you've improvised, then you've got to remember what you've said. And the continuity girls typewrite, and there's a typing away, and then we get the pages. But when you're young, you can look at it and you know it in just like a couple of times, and then you can shoot it. But that was interesting, and I think because of us mixing with all the bikers anyway, it just brought, I think, more of a real quality to it that was slightly missing.
Hey man, she's too much.
Dudley was very sympathetic, but he was lovely. I loved working with Dudley. And I remember one night having been out in Soho, and we got to shoot the next day, and we suddenly found, where's Dudley? Oh, he's been arrested. But we were able to get him out, and he just rushed from the cell and onto the set. He was unique. There was no one like Dudley. He was very special.
Yeah, Dudley was really funny. I mean, and we used to have a laugh with him out there. But Rita was fine. She did her shots, and then they'd whisk her away somewhere, and then she'd come back and she'd do another scene. And no, it was really, really interesting.
And very inventive, very creative actor. And it was a very good mix for the character, for Colin Campbell's character.
Hey, you coming out for a drink then?
No, I ain't got much time now, mate. Got to go over and see me gran. My granddad's in bed.
Oh, come on, you can go over there later. Listen, I know the greatest place in the world for a drink, the greatest place you've ever seen.
Yeah? Where's that then?
Wait and see. Follow me and wait and see.
He was quite nervous about it, I think, but Dudley helped him a lot. And it was all right, because we were really all quite close together. And I remember we shot in Butlins holiday camp. And I remember Dudley disappearing one evening, and we were sitting in a restaurant, but we were looking into the swimming pool, so you see rather large legs flapping around because you could see the swimmers in the pool. And suddenly I looked and I saw Dudley with a sort of sculpture, or the head of, not the real head, of Billy Butlin, and he floated down with the head, and we're all looking, and these other people say, what was that? And there was Billy Butlin with Dudley. He'd do things like that, and that was fun. And we stayed in the chalets, but the thing is, which you couldn't turn off, every morning. It's gonna be a lovely day, and it's a lovely day today. And you think, oh, just no, don't do this, but you couldn't turn it off.
Hello, campers. There's a dance at the Princess Ballroom at 7:30. Now, don't forget, 7:30. Hey, I better unpack my dress or we'll be late.
What's the time for that?
But all the redcoats were there, and it was a great atmosphere. And it was very much a family thing, and you could sort of, the children were well looked after, and you'd have the redcoats, and they were quite important, the redcoats. It was interesting. It wouldn't have been something that I would have chosen at that time to go to, and so that's the marvelous thing about filming. You go to places that perhaps you might never have the opportunity of going to. Sidney Furie, who was terrific, and came on set one day because in October there was the Cuban Missile Crisis, And he's an American, and he came on set, and he always used to stand like this, didn't he? Yeah, and he'd think, and he said, well, we're all gonna die. So he said, I suggest that we all go home to our loved ones. And if we're still alive in a couple of days, we'll continue shooting. It's a bit dramatic, but it was very dramatic when you look back on it. But Sidney was absolutely, you know, so down about it. His whole physique was that. But we thought, well, a couple of days off, lovely. And then we came back and we were rejuvenated and understood the seriousness of the situation. He would go, you know, he wouldn't just do one take. He when he felt he got it, then he would print. It was in October '62, and I was a bit worried about being on the bikes because I thought, I'm getting married in 2 months' time. Will I be, or will I be all right? And no, I was 20 and I took the reins. It was after A Taste of Honey, because when I shot A Taste of Honey, it was on my 19th birthday, the first day of shooting. And then with the Leather Boys, I was 20.
One day we were sitting down here and then a film director came along and they said they was going to make a film and they were looking for people like extras and things like that. And they used your bike, which they did use mine. I got 40 quid for that a day, which was a lot of money then. And then I had to, Colin Campbell, none of them could ride bikes. So there used to be a little, just first on your left side, the avenue, there was like a car mark round the back there. It's gone now. So we took him up there, didn't want to do it here, trying to teach him to ride a bike. So Colin couldn't handle the bike, so we got him a stronger bike, a Triumph 21, and he was fine on that. We got him a Red Tilly on that one. And then eventually, as you said in the film, when he said he's going to get another bike, then we updated him onto the actual Triumph Bonneville.
Well, I used to come up here in the evening, and then one night we were here, and somebody from the film shooters came down and said, we're making a film on the Leather Boys. We'd like you to be an extra. It was $7.50 a night with all the food you could eat. Always had a roast chicken or something at midnight. They looked after us well.
There was a crowd of us here and nothing was formally arranged, but they just said, look, we need some extras. Are you happy to be in the background? Blah, blah, blah. And, you know, to us it was, I wouldn't say exciting, but it was good to be in a film, you know. So I think there was mention about payment, but I never saw any payment.
A couple of days before they start filming, it was raining, and as I went round the bend, there was a pothole full of water, couldn't see it, hit the water, into the hole, off the bike, and that was the end of my dream of being in the Leather Boys.
My first husband is in the film before we're married, just before we're married, and he has to come along, and he comes on in the film when we're at the Butlins on our honeymoon, and I've done what I've done to my hair, and comes along and says,
May I have this dance?
Hey, you don't mind, do you? Hey, you can sit there and watch.
So it's quite sweet. Yeah, that was and he's no longer with us. So.
You can have a baby.
Well, it ain't my baby.
Don't look at me like that, mate. It's not mine.
Now look, fella, what are you taking me for?
Look, you keep
What
crying
take
out.
me for?
Well, look, I'm telling you.
And I'm telling you.
I got on really well with Johnny, but you know, so many of them are not with us any longer, which is sad. You know, all very different personalities. That was what was interesting. And I love the fact that we had the wedding and we all got on the bus and things, which they'd never do now, but it was more of a community feel. People, you know, you knew your neighbours, And it was before they'd done really the high rises. They were starting to build them, but so you had that community feel, which we appear to have lost. That connection is more people walk looking down rather than looking at and chatting. And it was jolly. And they weren't afraid of making a bit of a fool of themselves, you know.
Hope your mum's going to be out, Doc.
Oh, she's going to play bingo.
Yeah, we'll play bingo and all.
I had quite pixie-like hair, and I had 2 wigs. But I start off with brown hair, and then when I'm on my honeymoon at Butlins, I go and I decide I'm going to go blonde. So suddenly, Reggie sees me as a blonde, and he, you know, what's all this? And had a wonderful hairdresser, and she looked after Sonia Hennig, who was a very famous skater, and she was doing my hair, and she'd put the wig on and stuff. And she was wanting to get her one, I think it was one Friday night, and there was a crowd of people watching. You know, people are kept back now, but in those days, anyone could sort of wander and look. And I had this blonde wig, and she came and she went, and she had an American accent. I'm just going to take your wig off. And I thought, no, not in front of everyone. And she went, took it off, and everyone went, oh. They were very disappointed that wasn't my blonde hair. It was and of course, because it was short, pixie, rather stuck to my head. But you know, things like that, no, they were great. We did all the extra bit because it was my 3rd film, and this was the first one where I had a little bit of, you know, the glamour of the blonde and the makeup and the lipstick and all that stuff. But the thing is, it was the 2nd film I did, The Nether Voice, but because of the distribution, I think it was at that time with British Lion, it was kept on the shelf. It was certainly a couple of years before it was released, and then lucky it was successful, and it sort of took off. As I remember my daughter saying, I've just seen in this video collection, when they had video, that you're in the cult section. Oh.
With you in a minute.
Reggie, look, we've got a good chance of winning. What's the matter with you?
I'll catch you up easy. I'll see you in a couple of minutes, all right?
All right, see you down the ice.
The fact that it was held up for 2 years, because don't forget, we had A Taste of Honey, which was really groundbreaking, and then there'd been other films, but it was really more probably so, because you saw Colin's character and Dudley's and that sort of, you know, the relationship building, which in some of the films you didn't see.
There were undertones of relationship between Reg in the film and Pete. What's going on here? I never thought anything of it. You know, you know, it's naive perhaps, but the story about a friendship and you know, and a dodgy marriage between Dot is probably part of a lot of people's lives, I would have thought.
I think it was quite strong. I don't know, because I was involved in it, and then there was the relationship that I had with the Johnny Briggs character, and it was quite daring, and it wasn't too. It didn't come over. You know, in the 50s we had the black and white. It didn't come over as, I don't think, being old-fashioned. I think it was quite groundbreaking. The press, I think they were all right. I stopped reading years and years ago, many years, things, because there's always going to be something that's wrong, isn't there? There's always going to be some people that whatever you do, people are very kind, and others that, oh no, I don't like that. And people were just getting used to the new wave as well of film, and there was a split in a way. But now, I mean, when you look back, it was quite, not ahead of its time, but certainly with its time.
All I want to be is a normal married guy. Everything I do goes wrong. You know, I mean, I've tried everything.
I think it was about 7 weeks. Yeah, I remember that. It was shot in Merton Park, so we were in And I hadn't been in a studio because Taste of Honey was all vacation. And suddenly, the freedom that I had in Tony Richardson, then suddenly were in, and they were taking the walls out or ceiling, and we had the uni walls, you have to finish shooting at a certain time. And so that was my first experience of working in a studio.
I think the best scene I enjoyed was the one where Rita's at school with all her school friends, and Colin turns up and he's outside on his bike, and she keeps looking out the window. The teacher's telling her to sit down, and all of a sudden the bell goes, and then she comes out there. All the girls are crowding around him, like, let's see it. And he said, what are you talking about? Then he gets the ring out, and then the teacher intervenes, and and then she, that sort of old-fashioned, be careful, don't jump into any big, and I thought that was a really good scene there.
The school scene is where there's a slight link. The school was in Elm Road, in Kingston upon Thames. But on one particular day when I went to school, there was all these cables outside, out in the street in front of the school. When it came to home time at 4 o'clock, the teachers ushered us out and told us not to linger in front of all the film sets. Later learned that it became the film set for a scene in The Leather Boys. One of the girls that was actually in the scene with Colin Campbell, and you can see that she's there right behind Colin Campbell. Later on I got another picture, me and her together in Spain in 1969.
Well, you want to think carefully before you rush into marriage.
Oh, blow, before we get a lecture cover.
Well,
here we go.
I'll see you tomorrow.
Ta-ra then, girls. Sorry and all that, it is.
I think she wanted to get away from home. I think it was a schoolgirl crush, really. And it was exciting being around the bikes and things like that. We knew it could never last. And she was a sweet girl, but no, it wasn't. They were so young to get married, which people did in those days. They were married, weren't they, 18, 19? Now people, it's more sensible. They're much older when you marry. He didn't feel he got enough from her, Reggie. And so obviously Dudley's character was quite clever in working the situation. And that was read by my character. It's quite interesting seeing them that play out.
Now look, Doc, I'm hungry when I come home. I want something to eat. I don't have to start doing the housework and that. It wasn't a clean shirt either.
She didn't cook much, did she? Or wash up much. But that's the thing. Suddenly she's left home, and she had that. And then in those days you'd have domestic science at school. So, but then it was just chips. Or go down the road to the chippy. And also when they went on the honeymoon, she was wanting to go out, and he was just saying, "Oh no, it's our honeymoon." Was that? And she just wanted to mix with people, and that was her first taste of freedom, and not having to answer to her mum or anything.
But I'm telling you this: if you're not here tomorrow night to get me something, I'll have to find someone who can.
I'm making you tea now.
What, beans again?
Well, what's the matter with them? You always eat them.
Beans, I look like a bean. Got to eat something, and I can't live on here.
Now where you going?
Down at Cat.
Well, I don't know why you don't move in there.
Well, at least the grub's a bit better down there, isn't it?
How you're joking, of course.
Gillian Freeland, the writer, first of all, she wrote the book, and then that Raymond Strauss, he bought the rights to it, and then got her to do the script. She was on the set quite on quite a few of the days that we were shooting, and she was lovely, and it was all exciting and new to her because people were making films that would maybe 5 years before not got anywhere near. Their scripts wouldn't have been looked at, and that was the whole breakthrough, really, of the beginning of the films in the 60s. The 50s was sort of left behind, and suddenly there was the breakthrough of what they called stupidly kitchen sink. I mean, there's a sink in everyone's house, isn't it, really? And I think that Gillian is in the film, and indeed in the Ace, which is where we are today. So that's quite nice, really, full circle.
Today, it's been a real privilege, not just to host here people who have been involved in that film, many of whom I've come to know over the years, but the pleasure for me, ultimately, is just see happy, smiling faces like it was only yesterday.
Welcome to the Ace!
When in fact, I hate to say it, but it's 60 years ago, if I'm not mistaken, that the film was shot in 1963, but everybody was on a buzz, and that buzz is infectious, and it kind of caught me today as well. Terrific.
The Ace. And they let me park my bike here. I turned up, kid. You know, because I thought, where am I going to put the bike?
It was a place that we could all meet, be happy, go out for a ride, come back, get a coffee or whatever you wanted to do. Len behind the counter was a bit of a misery. He was, whoa, motorbike, whoa, doing a tantrum, and somebody would throw the jukebox out the door. There's all that sort of thing. Nothing vicious, but just playful, I suppose. Young 20-year-olds.
I think it's amazing that it's so well supported. Everyone comes, it's brilliant. But they're a family, aren't they? They all look after each other, they care for each other. There's that bond that will not be broken.
My memory of the Ace Caff really was, it replaced my home situation. I was basically renting a council masonette from 14 years old on my own, without the council knowing. But it was somewhere to come to. It was like, it felt like a home, basically. I knew everybody here. It was just home to me, you know.
But as a kid, you were rather a model rocker in the playground, and circumstance for me was such that cleaning older boys' bikes, sitting on them, and then having taken around on the back of one. You want one. You love the noise and the excitement and the very addictive, I've come to learn, adrenaline of it. So I just wanted motorbikes.
I had my own seat here most of the time because I used to sit by the door, because I'd actually started a business at an early age, selling motorcycle parts. And by sitting up there by the door, facing the door, I could see who was coming in, who was going out. And people knew where to find me as well if they wanted anything in particular. And they'd tell me they're looking for a dynamo for a Tiger 110 or something, or whatever it is, or, you know, they need a spare wheel or whatever. And within a few days, I'd normally source it somewhere.
I remember I was here one night, and all of a sudden I'm sitting down there, and these 4 heavy geezers come through the door, and they sort of looked around and sat down at the table. I was on that side of the table, and the same table, and they sat down, and they just looked right. All right, mate. All right, I said, yeah. He said, and they sort of ordered the teas, and he said, do you want a cup of tea, mate? I said, yeah, I'll have one with you. They was fine, and then I never thought, well, I thought, right, it's time for me to go now, and I shut off. But it wasn't until probably 1966, in the 60s, and then I looked in the paper, and I thought, it was the Cray twins. And the Cray twins were sitting there with 2 heavies. I didn't know who they were at the time. And I was trying to work out, and I know why they was here, because just up the road in Ardiford, Terry Downs, the boxer, well, he had a nightclub there. That's where they bit. And they obviously come down here, if that's something to eat. Well, their food was just coming as I was leaving, like, you know. So that's how I first met the Cray tree. And I remember that it was Reg who offered me a fag, and I took one. Ron was he seemed very quiet, you know what I mean? And the other 2, well, they were sitting this side of me, which I recognise now was one of them, was Freddie Foreman. But I didn't know it was him at the time, but now I've recognised him now.
Bill, his sister, had a club in Soho, so downstairs dies, it'd be now, only one of the stairs down to no exit. One night we're in there, and there's 2 fellas came in, big combi coats, they walked down the stairs looking at us. And they kept staring at us, and we went over to Eileen, and they said, who are they? And they coppers. And she said, no, that's Bill, my brother, and that's his best mate, John. So they came over to us. All right, boys, can we buy you a drink? Oh, no, thanks, we're done. Hey, they were the Richardsons. Yeah.
With the passage of time,
this place closed in 1969, unlike rock and roll music. The imagery of black leather jackets and all that. But I've missed it all. I come to meet people who were part and parcel of that era. And going back to the 80s, at that time it was a tyre shop, and to sit outside going, oh, why don't they reopen it? We've got nowhere to go, we've got nothing that's ours. Sure, there's, today we've got McDonald's, we've got Hard Rock cafes and all that, but it's not really our cultural heritage, as it were.
I was firmly of the view that
Ace and its history, this is in 94, meant an awful lot to an awful lot of people, and they'd all want to be, they'd all want to come in. And then it was a case of the bank managers kind enough to agree to lend us the money to pay the tyre company to go and to refurb as you see it today, which is basically the same building, but rather different on the inside to what it was in years past. And that fully reopened in 2001.
Okay, good luck, all right? Right.
What it means to the Ace is simply, it reveals the history of this place. And today, looking back, I'd venture to say it helped establish the place into English, perhaps, folklore. And that's certainly how it seems to me.
We was actually here seeing history, eyewitnesses to history, and now it's known all over the world. It's not just in England. The Ace Cafe is known everywhere.
But we didn't know that at the time.
No.
It's just a transport captain. We just came there and that's right. I had our fun and basically go in the evenings, you know.
The Ace Cafe have been so loyal to this film. They really have. They're all, so warm and supportive and lovely.
Yes, I met Colin later on in 2007. He was invited here at the Ace Cafe. And he was mingling amongst the crowd. So I just went up to him and started to speak to him. And he shook my hand and he says, oh, hello, yes, Reggie. He met was Reggie's, his name was in the film. What a fabulous guy.
If you look at the film, you actually hear me speaking, it was quite funny because someone showed me, I didn't even know, I forgot about it. And someone actually showed me the shot and they said, yeah, you're actually speaking at it, It seems funny to see him all them years ago,
Do you know why he had Dodgy written on the back of his jacket? Years ago, there was a program, a variety program on television called Val Parnell's Sunday Night at the London Palladium. It was hosted by, I think initially Bruce Forsyth, then Jimmy Tarbuck, and then Norman Vaughan. Well, they all had their catchphrases. And Norman Vaughan's catchphrase was a thumbs up with the word swinging, dodgy, swinging, dodgy. And that is how it got part of, that tag was used on the back of his jacket as being dodgy. Dodgy about what, I don't know.
I like it when they race up to Scotland. It's got good filming there, and you can associate with it, doing all that and everything, So I've quite enjoyed it. I watched it again about 3 weeks ago. And I've seen it obviously a few times over the years, but I really enjoyed it. Very good, very good. I'd watch it again. I'll watch it again when I go home now.
That one there. I think when we left here to go as a group behind I think it was a Rolls-Royce shooting car, where the camera was on the back and you were following the camera. And I happened to be the first one on the right, going out. That was my old friend Wiggy, whose bike was here today. George bought it. 514 CRP.
But here at the Ace Cafe, it shows the camaraderie that did go on, the friendship. We were all together. We did used to go out on our bikes, here, there and everywhere, and we enjoyed it. We went from one calf to another calf.
Yeah, you're the one, ain't you, eh? Hey, you want to watch yourself, you know, love, on the old bike.
Looking back as an actor on what you do, I never really like to see things that I'm too close to. But looking back, you can, because I was so young. I was 20 when I shot the Nether Boys, and so you're sort of detached, but not because it's you, but it's not you a couple of years ago, and you're thinking, oh, I wouldn't have done that. There's nothing you can do about it. It's there. And I suppose I would hope that my grandchildren would enjoy it, and things like that. And you hope it brings in, as your wonderful station does, Talking Pictures, that you encourage other audiences. You show people wonderful films that they would never have the opportunity to see if it wasn't for you. It brings back many memories, and also of the actors. Sadly, a lot are no longer with us that you worked with, and there are sweet memories. And even if it was been bad times, you still you throw that out. You treasure all the good things, and you don't. And also, you probably don't, because it's so many years ago. You don't criticize yourself as much as you would if it was 2 years ago. And that's what's interesting about film. It can take you on so many journeys, can't it? And so many stories and experiences.
They used to say pie and chips. I used to say to old Len behind the counter, give us one of your rock cakes and chips, because the pies were like bloody rock cakes.
So I'd have coffee.
And then you'd have your tea.
Yeah.
And on the counter, like, spoon itself was on a chain. So, you know, and all the tables wasn't like this. They was all
bolted to the ground, weren't they?
If I came in this morning, I had 2 eggs and chips with a cup of tea. That's all I had. It was lovely.
Well, I used to favour the sausage and chips. They were really nice sausages. I don't know where they come from, but I haven't tasted any sausages anywhere else like those.
I always drank Coke. Coke or coffee.
Cup of tea.
Eggs and chips. Oh yes, that sounds very delicious. As long as the chips aren't like big fat fingers. Blanket.